39.854 by Natalie Geischenberger of Germany, the Olympic champion. We'll be seeing her a little later in this start list in World Cup Luge. The sliders are seeded, and the best go last in run number 1 as well as run number 2. As you see, American Emily Sweeney, she's up there in this second group of the top 10. Look out for Summer Britcher and Dahana Eitberger. Both could be surprises from the second seed. And then you have Hamlin, Geisenberger, Alex Goff racing part-time this season. And finally, Martina Koka of Switzerland. 24 will start. All will take part in run number 2 in reverse order. And we're set to open up a brand new season. This is Guberova of Slovakia.
Yeah, Tim, so this start actually for the women is going to be one of the most difficult sections. It's steep. The people who attack the start are going to do the best on it, and then that start curve comes really fast. So getting into the sled perfect is going to be paramount for success here.
The big test midway through this course is coming up curve 9.
Right here, the exit is can be tricky at times, so we'll see how the competitors fare there. So far, looking like a good run.
For those of you new to the sport, Luge in the World Cup is run in 2 heats, a total combined time competition, so the 40.5 for Guberova to start things off will be added to her second run time, and whoever has the fastest 2-run combined time will win the World Cup race.
So here's the exit of curve 9. It's really open right now, so it's so important to have height coming through the curve to make a good push out. If you're too flat in curve 9 or you don't build enough pressure, you're going to see people hanging on the end of that curve, and that's when they're going to have issues.
Next up, we get ready for our Ukrainian competitor, Elena Shkramovova. Some of these names I'm obviously going to butcher in the early going.
That's all right.
So thinking back especially to when you were a young competitor, how nervous were you in the World Cup opener?
Oh, absolutely. The hardest thing about this sport is performing on race day. We have all this training. We've been training for months and months and months, and then all of a sudden you get to the line and you just have these 2 runs to put it all down. So there's immense pressure that you put on yourself. Plus, for races, the ice conditions are perfect, and a lot of times you're almost too aggressive with how you slide. So Luge, we're going down on this ice track with metal runners. There's not. Oh boy, there's a
problem.
There's
that
a crash.
Was out of into curve 9, right?
Yeah, that was back on.
For those of you new to the sport, as long as you maintain contact with the sled, you can still get a finish time.
Exactly.
Once you've lost that sled, you're DQ'd.
And she looks like she is, as I was talking about, sliding aggressively. So we have metal runners that we're going down the track with. And the ice, there's not a lot of friction there. So we actually have a little bit of angle that is biting into the track. And right here, she just breaks out into a skid, hits the curve just a little too soon, and I've done that mistake a couple times.
Well, the problem in this sport, and well, let's check out this recovery. It was a little bit of a seasoned veteran move to be able to hang on to that sled and get back on.
Absolutely. Getting back on the sled when they're moving, people don't realize how difficult this is. We're still moving, I don't know, probably 80 kilometers an hour right there. So then to try to get back on your sled is not easy at all.
In a sport where all of the finishes are uphill, and here in Innsbruck, it's very uphill.
Yeah, it's very uphill.
You have that little bit of a walk of shame at the end. So Jenna Spencer, racing for the first time, I believe, World Cup debut from Canada, qualified yesterday in the Nations Cup competition, just 19 years old from British Columbia.
Actually, this is a perfect angle. You can see the steels biting into the ice. So we do have a sharp edge right there. But again, if you round that, you'll go faster, but then you lose a lot of control, as we saw earlier. A little tap of a wall right there heading into curve 6.
Talk about momentum in this sport and how important it is to be clean at the top.
Absolutely. A mistake at the top is going to hurt you more than a mistake at the bottom. Oh, another early cross onto curve 9. So a mistake at the top, you need to build as much speed, as much momentum as possible. So if you mess up down here in the labyrinth, it's not going to cost you as much time. Jenna did hit a wall right before curve 6, so that's going to cost her. Wow.
Dead heat to the thousandths of a second. This is the first time you're going to see that this season, but it won't be the last. Believe it or not, that happens quite a bit. They time Luge to the thousandths of a second, and we already have a tie. This is the Kreisel.
Yeah, this is the Kreisel. This is curve 7, 270 degrees, and you have a lot of time to think about your exit. Great exit right there, and solid position also. But Luge is timed to the thousandth of a second, and it can be the most frustrating thing because you can lose to someone by 2,000ths of a second. I know I've been on the podium over people by thousandths of seconds, so to be on the receiving end of that is definitely not a lot of fun.
The Olympics in women's, I believe, in 1998 when Silke Kraushauer defeated Barbara Niederhuber by 2,000ths of a second.
So next we have Sandra Robacher from Italy. Let's take a look at her start. This is one of the most difficult parts of this track for the women. 4 aggressive paddles, 3, and you have to turn it. And the problem with the star curve, it turns so abruptly that you have to get in and drive the sled into the correct position. If you don't, you're going to cause yourself to skid, and you may hit walls and lose a lot of time.
Robacher, 19 years old. In fact, she'll turn 20 in a couple of weeks when we're in Park City. Out of Tiers in the Südtirol region of northern Italy, home of so many of these losers.
So far, a beautiful run by Sandra. There we go. And that is how the Eagles track should be drove. That was a fantastic run.
22 hundredths ahead of the rest of the field for the Italian. It's, one great thing about this, Chris, every year when you have all of these first races, these young competitors, is the who is going to break out. Whose year is it for someone to move from, say, 15th or 16th in the world to the top 5? And in some cases, you're taken by surprise. In some cases, you've got a hunch based on training, right?
Absolutely. Training can tell you a lot. But people wait till race day to show off their true time. The problem with training, our steels aren't controlled. Some steels can be hotter than others, causing people to go faster. But on race day, all of the variables come together. And this is the only time where you'll see how truly fast or slow you are.
Okay, this name a bit of a challenge for sure for an English-speaking announcer. You want to take a stab at it?
So Raluca Stramaturaro from Romania.
You're good.
We've been traveling for, this is my 15th season, so I know a lot of these people really well.
I'm giving myself at least until week 3 before I can really catch some abuse for pronouncing them wrong, because it's a learning curve. So do you have any story about someone that showed up at the first World Cup of a season, someone maybe people didn't know much about, and then, whoa, this person is right there, they're good?
A lot of times it happens on the junior circuit. So there's 2 completely different circuits that are happening right now. You have the World Cup circuit and then the Junior World Cup circuit. And a lot of times we don't really know what's happening at the Junior World Cup circuit. And then you'll hear about a kid having a really fast time or doing really well in a race. Nice job.
Yeah, Stramaturaro did a great job there.
Excellent
100th of a second, or almost 200ths up on the competition in the early going.
So what will happen is that then all of a sudden junior athletes will come from the lower circuit and surprise the senior circuit. Last year, Tucker West, an American, he was still a junior.
Qualified Nations Cup in Lake Placid and won the race.
Yeah, he won the race. So, I mean, fantastic competitor, and it's great seeing younger athletes coming up and pushing the older athletes.
Sure. That, there's the great Albert Demchenko, 2-time Olympic medalist, retired after the games on his home track in Sochi, now involved in the sport as an official.
He's also a head coach of Russia.
That makes sense. Andrea Fota.
Oh, perfect. Got that one right there.
Okay, yeah. It just slides off the tongue. From Italy, 20-year-old. He's been competing since 2010. You had a little groan there. What happened
so
there at
one
the
of the
start?
hardest things about luge is getting into the sled. As you can imagine, these sleds are not built for comfort. It is a tight fit inside the sled. So the reason this top section of Eagles is so difficult, you have a really steep ramp that you have to attack, but then the curve comes at you really fast. You have to settle into your sled and get into that perfect, little skid there going into curve 10. So getting into your sled to then be able to turn it is very difficult.
Erin Hamlin says this track, she says very candidly, it's not one of her favorites because it's too short and any mistake can be brutal. So that sort of gives you an indication as the Italian takes over the lead. Just getting back to that other point, I do remember in another American, you mentioned Tucker West, as we check out the replay here. Way back, this is about 20 years ago, you remember, of course, Chris Nickham and his teammate Matt McLean. First World Cup in Lillehammer. No one had heard of them other than their junior world championship, and they led a 1-2-3 USA sweep. And people were, something, we got some new players in town, as Keith Younger, the USA team manager, getting a little airtime. Next up now, from Austria, Katrin Heinzmeyer.
And she is actually new to the circuit, so I do not know Katrin very well, but she's competing at her home track, so I'm sure she has tons of friends and family out to cheer her on.
And tons of training runs.
and tons of training runs. So perfect setup right close to that right wall. Beautiful start curve. You can tell she definitely has experience here. And the trick with this track is being able to let the sled go. It's about having control over the sled, but letting the sled do the work. If you're constantly trying to drive the sled here, you're going to cut little bits and pieces of ice, and it's actually going to slow you down. So letting the sled be free, having control but not having control is the key to going faster. As you can see, it's pretty easy to do the track here in Eagles well, but being faster is extremely difficult.
70 miles an hour into the lower labyrinth, and by 100th of a second, Heinzmeyer moves out in front. You're going to see this happen quite a bit in run number 1 as the higher seeds, as I mentioned earlier, are going last. It gets very exciting in the second heat as they count them down. This, again, the exit of 9.
And that was a beautiful run, and lots of runs here in Eagles. You can tell she is not looking. She is pushing back. With the sport of luge, it's interesting because one way to go faster is to not look. So you want to put your head back, have aerodynamics, but at the same time, it's that constant battle where you want to take a look and see where you're going, because it's definitely uncomfortable, as we say, going blind down the track. But as you can tell, experience shows, and she was able to put her head back most of that run, gain that aerodynamic advantage, and she's in first place.
Heinzmeyer leads, and now the World Cup debut for American Rachel Jermaine. She qualified yesterday with a 7th place finish in the Nations Cup competition. 20-year-old Georgia native, and I don't mean the nation next to Russia, I mean Roswell, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, now makes her home in Lake Placid. Not a bad start, coming back from a shoulder injury.
Yes, and with that start, she did have a little loop in the start curve. She didn't turn it into the curve as much as she wanted.
I spoke with Rachel yesterday after she qualified. She was pretty laid back about it. She didn't seem that nervous.
Oh, there's a skid. That's a
big problem there, and that is indeed your rookie type mistake.
Yeah, and what happened right there, she broke out into a skid, but the ice is really hard right now, so you actually couldn't really see the ice kind of coming off the back of her steel, but it was a long skid that it took a while to catch. And that's going to happen if you don't have an absolutely perfect curve 9. You're going to have problems at the end. So
all she can do is shrug her shoulders. 0.4 of a second back in her race debut.
Right here, a little roll back, and she can tell. But on race day, what's nice is that she didn't go to drop the feet right away. She's fighting to keep the sled up with her legs, and you know, that's just what happens when you're trying to race. You're trying to go as fast as possible. If you drop the feet, you're going to slow yourself down. But sometimes in a mistake like that, you can catch it by doing a quick little drive on the Kufen. So it's kind of like an instinctual thing that she was doing. And, you know, I applaud her. That takes a lot of guts to try to fight it even though you're out of control.
As is the case in the Bavarian and Tyrolean events. You get a huge group of Luge fans coming here on a Saturday morning. It will only get bigger as the weekend moves along. Back-to-back Americans here in run number 1. 22-year-old Emily Sweeney, originally from Portland, Maine, or born in Portland, grew up in Connecticut outside of Hartford in Suffield. She finished 7th in this World Cup opener last year.
Nice. That was a great star curve. As you can see, she is not looking at all. She is going for it on this run. Great position, great start time.
Sweeney won both of the seeding races, the qualifying races during the preseason as the Americans
a little late to curve
season.
9. Let's see what happens here. Nice.
So a huge advantage here, Chris, in the midway point.
Yeah, she is having a great run right here, Tim.
Exact same speed as Heinzmeyer had, 111.1 kilometers an hour, 70 miles an hour to the uphill finish, and by nearly quarter of a second, Emily Sweeney of the United States has moved into the lead.
That is a fantastic time, Tim, and that will definitely put her in contention to compete with the best girls. Fantastic run by Emily Sweeney. Look at this right here. Laid back, position's perfect. She's really relaxed, and she's letting the sled run. She's not trying to control the sled. She's letting the sled do the work for her.
Well, the smile is not only being in the lead, but that feeling of relief of getting your first World Cup run of the season in the books.
Absolutely, and she had a great run. So that helps you build your confidence if your first run of the World Cup season is a solid run.
Canadian and Austrian coaches checking out the action, looking to the top of the track for our second Austrian competitor, Miriam Caslinger.
Oh, this is actually Victoria Demchenko.
Sorry about that. Caslinger on deck, yes. Great correction by Chris Master, much more on top of the game than I.
I'm just looking at the faces. Strong start from Victoria. And Victoria is the daughter of head coach Albert Demchenko,
who seemingly competed forever.
Yes.
Retired at 43.
It was just him and Armin Ziegler during Sochi who were in their 40s, and both of them won medals.
That's right. Yeah, that's amazing. You know, actually, that's a point we'll touch on, Chris, as the season moves along, because that is one of the keys to success in this sport, is actually to get over that first curve and compete into your 30s, because some people get frustrated. It's not a lucrative life, and they're ready to move on. But Albert right there saw some of his best successes in his 30s and 40s, so many of the Germans as well. You just need those 8 to 10 years under your belt. Unless you're Felix Locke.
Absolutely. There are a few exceptions to the rule, but primarily Luge is an experience-based sport, where the older you get, the more experience you have, and therefore you make the correct decisions going down. What people don't realize is that when we're going down this track, it's impossible to think what you're going to do, or, okay, in 2 curves I'm going to do this. Everything happens so fast. You're in the moment. You're naturally reacting to what's coming at you. So if you're offline by just a couple centimeters, you have to act differently. You have to drive differently. And so that experience allows you to make the correct decisions at a moment's notice. So here we have Miriam Caslinger of Austria, also tons of experience at this track.
21 years old. Her home is right here in Innsbruck. She captured the gold medal at the Youth Olympic Games in 2012 on this track. So she can already say she's an Olympic champion. With an asterisk. Nice job there out of exit 9.
Fantastic line out of curve 9. That is textbook.
Trying to chase the American Sweeney, who had a near flawless run, the exact same speed to the 100th of a kilometer an hour. So this will be close.
She will be a little behind, though.
As predicted, 0.128 behind the American.
That was still a very good run for Miriam.
15 of 24 competitors have made their way down so far. And this is the I believe the lower labyrinth section.
Yeah, this is the lower labyrinth. The women go, they start into curve 5, and there's actually an upper labyrinth section that the men will go through, and that's curves 4, 5, 6. So the women.
So 40.118 for Caslinger. What's the difference between a labyrinth and an S-curve series, such as the one in Koenigsee at the top?
So the S-curves in Koenigsee are so unique to the luge world. They're, I would say, like the quintessential like curves. Yeah, because it's the most intense feeling that you'll get flying up 15 feet to instantly fly down and back up another 20, 25 feet. So labyrinths are just curves that alternate back and forth. So now we have Eliza
Souza is the pronunciation.
She got married this summer, and I've been trying to figure out how to correctly pronounce her name. Pretty sure it's Souza.
35-year-old or 25-year-old competitor who finished 12th at the Olympic Games in Sochi 2014. 600ths behind Emily Sweeney, and a little bit of a correction there out of 9.
Yeah, actually, Tim, I've been looking at that. It looks like there's a little buildup, like a bump out there, and it's kind of tossing the competitors up in the air. So it looked like her foot kind of got bounced up there. But as long as you're relaxed, that shouldn't be a problem.
Well, we're getting a good sense of how good the run was by the American Sweeney, as we've had a handful of competitors look pretty good, have equal speed at the bottom, but fall quite a bit behind.
Absolutely. So the way it's working right now, this order is based off of Nations Cup that happened yesterday. So we're coming up on the top 2 competitors. Julia Taubitz, the German, she finished 2nd to Summer Britcher. So I know that Emily messed up yesterday in Nations Cup, so she was a little further back.
So no one is surprised to see her where she is right now. Or at least you're not.
I'm not, but some people may be surprised. Here we go. So now we have Julia.
Our first of 4 Germans. We don't have to tell even the novice viewers how strong this nation is in this sport. Julia Taubitz. And it's probably safe to say that women's German luge has a greater domination than any sport, any gender in the Olympics.
I would agree with that. The current the top 3 German women are very dominant in the sport. Natalie Geischenberger, Tatiana Huffner, and then Diana Eitberger.
And Wisniewski retired. She was always one of the top 3 or 4. It's just the parade continues. But not so much here, as Taubitz is fighting to catch the American here in run 1.
Yeah, she is definitely behind. I don't know if she'll be able to make up that time, but again, she is a younger German athlete who has a lot of great years ahead of her.
So falling back into 5th spot, Norbert Locke not too pleased with that, because he usually he sees a 1 or a 2 whenever a German comes down there.
Yeah, but she did have some skidding issues with her sled. This ice, I think, is kind of throwing people for a little loop. I think it's harder than most people were expecting. A couple days ago, the weather report said to be warm, raining, maybe snowing, but as you can tell from all the pictures, it's been snow and colder than they've expected.
First of 4 Germans down. It's an American, Emily Sweeney, leading the way, and still ahead we have 2 more from the USA, 3 more from Germany. We've got the Canadians, McRae and Goff. So get ready for this race to really begin. The World Cup opener here in Innsbruck, Austria. Tim Singer joined by USA men's competitor Chris Madster. And here is American Summer Britcher, 21 years old, from Glen Rock, Pennsylvania. She captured yesterday's Nations Cup competition to qualify for the World Cup run.
Absolutely. Summer won the Nations Cup yesterday. She's been sliding really well this week, so it's just about her keeping her composure and just having a normal run. All right, she is currently just a little bit ahead of Emily as she had a faster start. Nice line through Kreisel, and she's gaining on Emily.
200s out of the Kreisel. Now the important 8-9. Ooh, and she recovered, but that will cost her.
That will cost her just a little bit of time. Yep, and already a little bit behind right there.
The speed
that could have been so much worse, though.
It definitely could have been. And we'll get another look at what's a great recovery. And you see she falls back just one spot. So Americans sit 1-2, but Chris, it gives us a great idea to talk about reaction time and how important a component that is in this sport.
Absolutely. You know, the people who do the best don't drive the perfect line. It's they recover from their mistakes the best. As you can see, Summer was able to recover before hitting that wall. It's just, she just probably rolled back a little too hard. Little touch right there, but it's more about correcting your mistakes really fast as opposed to having that perfect run, because that rarely ever happens.
40.065 for American Summer Britcher, and we've gone USA, and we have our second German now. One who certainly figures to challenge for the top spot here. 25-year-old Tatiana Eidberger from Oberhof, the site of World Cup stop number 5 a little later on this season in the eastern area of Germany.
Absolutely. Diana finished second overall in the world last year to Natalie Geischenberger, so she is definitely a strong competitor looking to make a statement today.
6th place finisher at the World Championship. Been competing now for 15 years. So many of these German lugers begin just about as soon as they can walk or ride a bike. They start in the sport of luge.
Yeah, Germany has a great pipeline of athletes, great development program, and there's that little bump right there. You saw her feet pop up.
But a clear lead by a 1/10 of a second.
Totally.
Looking very good. Best speed we've seen.
No, I was just saying that the Germans have so many athletes. They have 4 tracks. They have great recruitment programs. So athletes start at, wow, track record right there. Fantastic.
39.827. Eidberger has set a mark. One that certainly could be beaten a little later on this morning, but 69.3 miles an hour and a track record time of 39.827.
Yeah, I don't exactly know how young Diana started, but coming from Oberhof, the kids are starting 6, 7 years old, and it's just so hard to compete with that.
She was 10 when she began.
10.
Began competing at 10, according to my biographical. She was probably 2 when they took her over to that Oberhof track.
Yeah, 10's, she was competing before most people start in the sport.
Well, a track record has set a mark for the remaining 10 or 9 competitors to try to catch.
But she picked off right where she left off last year, with the win in Sochi and the track record the next run here in Eagles.
From Canada, our next competitor, 23-year-old Kimberly McRae out of Victoria, British Columbia, lives, as so many of these lugers do now, in Calgary.
Oh, great start curve, Kim.
8th on the World Cup overall standings list last season.
A little bit of a wave in Kreisel right there, but decent exit out. Maybe a little too soon on to curve 8.
A great finish of the World Cup season. Late last season, she won her first World Cup medal, a bronze at the Altenburg World Cup.
Very smooth. Oh.
Uphill finish, and she's wavering a little bit, and as you can see, that reflects big time. 12th place only, nearly a half a second back.
Yeah, I wonder what happened there. Her 11-12 transition looked fantastic, but then just a little too much cross from 12 to 13. In that bottom section, those curves, you have to be rolling through and then coming back to neutral. And what I mean by that is if you're still rolling for the curve when you come out, there's a very good chance the sled will continue to go that way. Unfortunately, she hit 13 too soon, almost crashed. That was a fantastic recovery, but that's going to kill all of your time. Oh, that's
right. Yeah, and I didn't catch that on the live run, but yeah, you saw that skid right before. I mean, it couldn't have been a worse moment.
No,
with the uphill lurking.
If you skid into 14, you lose tenths of a second. So she was having a great run going for her, but unfortunately that mistake cost her, I want to say, 3/10, 2/10.
I want to talk about that red light in a second as we get ready for Tatiana Ivanova. Once the track is clear, you have a certain amount of time and you got to get started or you're disqualified.
Absolutely. So for women's luge, there's a 30-second clock. And once the track is clear for you, you'll get the green light and it's a countdown. You have 30 seconds to pull off, which pretty much everyone
Have you ever cut it close?
Sometimes you cut it close, but no matter what, you pull off before that 30 seconds, regardless of what's going on.
Nice start of 2.1 for Ivanova.
That's the fastest start we've seen so far.
I have seen the green light go on, and all of a sudden the athlete forgot their face mask, and someone sprints and gets it, and you get it on and you start. So.
Or, in that case, you actually do not need a face shield for the run. Of course, you're going to want aerodynamic reasons and comfort, but if worse comes to worse, you could always just choose to not wear it.
I have seen the dash for it, though. Ivanova has fallen behind Eidberger down here midway through the track, lost all sorts of time at the bottom part. 3:47, the deficiency.
That's still really close, and we're talking about the 1,000th. That's actually 1,000th behind Elisa, who's in 5th place.
Right now it's Germany, USA, Austria, the top 4 with 7 remaining. As we get set for our next competitor, it's Austrian Birgit Platzer, and Chris, relaxation in so many sports. It almost seems like it's a contradiction with all of this speed and all of this loud noise of the sled, but being relaxed maybe is the most important aspect.
Oh, absolutely. So this is a finesse sport. What happens on the start, it's all about power, being explosive. You pull off, you have 3, 4 paddles, but once you're in the sled, it's all about being relaxed and just having a good sense of feeling for what's going on around you. It's totally a ballet going down the track.
Our thanks to Jesse, who has tweeted in saying that live feed commentary is a game changer in the sport of luge, and we're pleased to be part of this groundbreaking effort. Tim Singer along with Chris Madster, World Cup opener here in Innsbruck.
Well, this is totally a game changer. I know that my parents in the past, they just watched the live splits. So little early to curve 8 right there. Where they've just watched the splits. They actually don't see what's going on, but over the years they've learned what the times mean, and they can tell
so
how
you
well
were able to lie to them and say, no, I didn't really have any problems out of curve 7. And now they'll know.
Now they'll know. They're like, Chris, you were lying to us this whole time.
To the finish, Platzer, 40.304 for run number 1. That is back in 14th place out of the 18 that have gone so far.
Yep. And let's see if they show her curve 8. No, they won't. Good exit out of curve 9, but really early to curve 8. And although it looks like, there's no issue going on, your lines have to be so perfect here, so precise. It's easy to make it down in eagles, but to go fast is extremely difficult. So we're talking about letting the sled run. You have to be able to let the sled run, but you have to do so on the right lines. You have to drive in a few key places and let the sled do the rest of the work.
Our thanks to Ellie, also tweeting in saying life is good, up at 2 a.m. watching sliding on multi-screens. We assume she's probably watching the IBSF competition as well in Altenburg. We have 6 remaining here in Eagles at the Viessmann World Cup opener. And this from Russia is Ekaterina Baturina, still ahead, Huffner, Hamlin, Geischenberger, Goff, and Koka.
Yeah, these next athletes are the best women's athletes in the world. So let's see if they'll be able to compete with that brand new track record by Diana. Oh, yeah. This start curve is extremely difficult for the women. She just got in a little late. Got another tweet. But she just went a little late into the curve, and what that did is that caused her to get too high, and she lost all of her pressure. So that causes the sled to skid. So regardless if she has a fantastic run, she's going to be behind because of that mistake up top.
We've said it before, we'll say it all season long, but problems at the top multiply all the way down the track. You can't improve your time at that point. You can only hope not to do more damage.
Absolutely. So Katerina had the fastest start, 2.082, 1,000th behind the start record. However, that skid through the curve, that wall afterwards, that dropped her right back to 13th place. So from first to 13th place right here. Just lost her pressure, back end breaks out, and there's really not a whole lot you can do. It actually seemed like she had a little trouble getting into the sled, so she couldn't pre-turn the curve, as we say it.
So far, this has been a German-American show, with Germany on top, USA in second and third, and of the remaining 5 competitors, 4 of them are either German or from the United States, along with Alex Goff, who figures to challenge for Canada.
Absolutely, and Alex has been a really strong competitor the past couple years, consistently making it to the podium.
But now the big kids have been let out to play. This is 3-time Olympic medalist Tatiana Huffner of Germany. The veteran has a chance, if she has a solid season, to win her 6th overall World Cup title. That would set a record. She's currently tied with Silke Krashaler with 5 titles.
All right, so she made it through the start curve clean, so that is the most important thing you can do. Start is a little slower than I thought she would pull, but let's see how the rest of the track works for her.
The 32-year-old has also won 4 world championships in this sport. She is really in that short list of one of the best ever. 700ths behind her teammate here.
Not the fastest speed we've seen either. So let's see if she can even stay in the top 3.
No, all sorts of trouble down at the bottom. You got to wonder at this point about equipment as well. It's something that actually Huffner's always complained a little bit about. She's not one of the recipients of those Hockel sleds. And there's a little battle amongst Germans sometimes about equipment and track time.
Well, there's 4 tracks in Germany, and each track has their own club, so it is a constant battle, where most countries are kind of unified, one front going forward, where there are multiple parties within Germany. But that's also what makes them so good. They're always competing against each other.
So a disappointing way to start the season, but do not count Huffner out. One good run, she could very easily be in the medals in run number 2. She sits in 3rd for the moment with 4 remaining in run 1. A look at the standings. From the United States, this is the Olympic bronze medalist, Erin Hamlin, also a world champion on her home track in New York State in 2009, and that's where Hamlin lives, just outside of Lake Placid, a couple of hours, near Utica, New York.
All good. Let's go.
Absolutely. Yesterday, Hamlin had a fantastic training run, so let's see if she can build upon that.
Last year, Hamlin was 5th in the World Cup standings. This was
nice
not
setup.
one of her better competitions here in Eagles.
No, but the conditions were so different last year. It was warm, it was snowing, it was windy, it was a little bit of everything. But today, the track looks fantastic. Hamlin is having a good run so far.
She says she has been very comfortable on this track this year, as I mentioned earlier. She doesn't like how short it is, but she does like the Innsbruck area, and comfort means a lot. 111.7. This is going to be close, Chris.
Yeah, she's definitely losing time, but I think she will. There it is.
Second place.
Right in front of her teammate, Emily Sweeney.
So, in your opinion as a teammate, about where you would expect her? Better than expectations?
It's tough to tell
Just
because
tough in race one.
With races are so different than training, but I definitely expect Erin to, she's a game day performer. So she can show up to the big races, and I'm pretty confident she's going to always do well. So does this surprise me? No. But all of our girls have been so competitive. We have such a strong women's field in the U.S. right now, so they're always pushing each other. So any day, a different girl can come out on top. And especially, I think Summer would have been really close up there without her mistakes out of curve 9. So
and still sits just in 5th place. 3 remain now. This is the Olympic champion, Natalie Geischenberger. She is also the defending World Cup champion, storming out of the gate last season, starting here in Eagles and winning the first 4 World Cup competitions. Then she let up a little in the second half of the season, but still ended up with 7 World Cup race victories. Just a dominating year.
Absolutely. Natalie has won all of the major races in recent times. She is definitely the woman to beat. I was wondering if it was snowing out there. It looks like the gondola went above her. But she is just a solid competitor, strong start.
She's finished in the top 3 in the overall World Cup standings every year since 2008. That's consistency, and that's a great exit of 9.
It is, but she is also behind. I'm wondering if the track is beginning to slow down, or did Diane have just that much better? Oh, a little early there.
Will she be top 2 now? Wow. Is the question. 4th place. It brings up a good point. It's so tough to dissect what goes wrong. Could it be the track getting chewed up a little, 22 sleds in? Could it be the temperature outside?
It's tough. If I actually... It looks like this track could be slowing a little bit, but I'd have to actually get out onto the track, feel the ice, measure the ice to know if that's the case.
Here it exited 9. Not bad. She was clean there, but she had some skids below that point. Felix Locke, the first to greet her down there with a big smile. He's not worried. And certainly, if you look at these split times, Geisenberger's in 4th, but there is a big logjam right now, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place. So it's going to be very exciting in run number 2, the battle for the medals.
Absolutely.
2 remain now. Here is Alex Goff of Canada, 28 years old. Alex told me yesterday, as has been well documented, she is competing only part-time this year as she continues to work on her studies at the University of Calgary. But really one of the most consistent non-Germans in this sport, Chris, over the last 5 years.
Over the last 5 years, definitely. She has been so consistent and will find herself on the podium a couple times every season. Solid start. That was the 2nd fastest start, and she's actually not as far behind as Natalie Geisenberger was. Oh, that was one of the best exits we've seen out of 9 today.
So you can just tell sometimes when their head is back, you don't see their eyes. You know that they're comfortable at that point in the track.
Yeah, and she's a little bit behind right now, just losing that time. But
5th place. Again, these splits are real tight still. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. They're all within 0.05 of a second.
Yeah.
So don't be alarmed when you see a 5 there.
No, I mean, coming up, you just know you're in 5th place. You don't know how far back you are, but she is only 0.05 from 2nd place. So definitely it's possible for her to move up 2nd run.
This was curve 10 after that great exit of curve 9. We've seen some skids there. I didn't see much of a problem there.
No, that looked like a pretty clean run. I really liked her exit of 9. Her curve 10 is she takes a little different line than other competitors, but it shoots her out on that right wall, and if that's how she likes to work the labyrinth. That's kind of like a personal preference. But overall, that looked like a pretty solid run.
You saw them press a button there. That's not to start the relay. That involves drug testing, or
no, that button has nothing to do with drug testing. That is
sled check
control.
Sled check, right?
So
if
you get the green button, you can walk on through.
Yeah, I knew it was some random. There's a random draw, and I forgot whether it was drug testing or the sled check, the equipment check. And we'll talk maybe in run number 2 about the standards, very tight standards of the weight, the size of the sled. Final competitor in run number 1 from Switzerland, Martina Kroke. Finished in 6th place last year.
You can see the lines in the track, so there is something was in the track, some snow. Well, but that light that we're pressing, so if you hit the red light, that means that your body weight's controlled, the sled is partially controlled, and then there's the blue light, which they actually take the sled apart and do a really thorough check.
Quarter of a second back, so this is not one we expected to be in the top 2, but perhaps the top 5, but she's going to fall back quite a bit more than that.
She is.
Back in 14th place for Martina Kroke. Coached as the Swiss have been for so many years, partnering with the German program. That's why Norbert Locke was sitting there in the coaches area. So really, it's tough to dissect what went wrong. Some of the big names did stay up in the top 6 or 7. That's important. But we have a few surprises here with the youngsters in the top 3 as well.
Absolutely, and Diana was so the way it works, you have the Nations Cup, and you have all the athletes that go from reverse, who qualified, to the person who won, which was Summer, and then the other athletes get a random draw. And so Diana had the best draw, so she was first.
And we saw the ice deteriorate just a little bit.
The ice will deteriorate.
They do a great job here, the track workers, the facility, but there's only so much you can do when you have so many sleds making their way down.
And then when conditions roll in, I know it's supposed to potentially rain or snow this afternoon, so maybe that is moving in and it's getting humid out. So what that does is it causes frost on the ice and it slows down.
So there is a look, and especially with Eitberger leading the way, take a look at positions 2 through 5. It's going to be a great hunt for the medals in run number 2, but right now it's a leaderboard dominated by the Germans and the Americans, with Alex Goff and Miriam Caslinger rounding out the top 8. A look at all of the remaining of our top 24. They will go in reverse order in run number 2. We'll be back in a little bit. Chris, before we leave, just some final thoughts as you look forward to run number 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that from 2 to 6 is really close. Don't count the 7th and 8th place people. Huffner and Britcher. Britcher messed up first run. Let's see if she can clean that up. So the top 10 is going to be really exciting. I